Okay, if you will, we're going to call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Williston City Council. It is Tuesday, August the 22nd. It's 6 p.m. And I'll ask Ms. Wright to please call the roll.
Mayor Goodman,
I'm here.
President Jones,
Here.
Vice President Robinson,
Here.
Councilmember Cox, he's absent. Councilmember Bullock,
Here.
Councilmember Hines,
Here.
City Manager Terry Bavard,
Here.
Attorney Kirsten Ballou. Here. City Clerk Latricia Wright, I am here, and all other staff. Here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. If you will, stand with us at this time for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance by the Mayor.
Join me if you will. Lord, we come to you tonight as a community working together for the good of all. Lord, we ask that you be with these council people, each member, help them to make the best decision for our community that they can. And Lord, I ask you tonight to be with our police and our fire department, protect them in all the things they do as they attempt to protect and guard our city. I ask you to be with everyone who is sick, everyone who is under the weather, and to help them to get better as quickly as possible. I ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, at this time, item 1 is additions, deletions, and changes or approval of the agenda. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam President. So there are a couple items that I would request to be removed from the agenda tonight. Items M, which is discussion with possible action, Folds and Walker increase in legal services. We're not quite prepared to discuss that yet, but I will be coming back to you in a couple weeks. And then also item number O, which is the resolution authorizing the purchase, or not the purchase, but the hiring of a technology technician for CalLink, because we're lacking some of the documents that you needed to make a decision on that tonight. So if we could do M and O, that would be great.
Anybody else have anything?
Yes, ma'am. M and O.
Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion for the agenda as revised.
I'll make a motion for the agenda as revised.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from anyone? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, item number 2 is public participation. This is the first of 2 times that the public has that you can come to speak with us for up to 5 minutes about something that is not on the agenda. If you would like, there is another opportunity at the end as well. If you would like to speak at this time, please make your way to the podium.
If there's anyone on the ring central would like to speak, unmute your mic. Speak up now.
No?
Would this be like regarding, like if I had to talk to someone in regards to lien, why I had to come here? Would this be the time to talk?
Is the lien, I think the lien is on the, is this the lien that's on the agenda? Okay. Okay, then you have to wait till we get to that item. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. All right, anyone else? All right. Seeing none, we will move to item 3, which is the consent agenda that consists of the council meeting minutes of August the 8th. They're in your packet for review. There are no changes. I would entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Make a motion, we approve consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 4 is updates, and we will start with staff, board member and council updates, and we will start with the city manager.
Thank you, Madam President. The only thing I have for you tonight is maybe give you a quick update on the golf cart roads approval and the signs and stuff like that. So as you know, Wright Pierce is involved in that process. Walt Nichols is the lead on that as far as roads and stuff. I know that before he left on vacation, they were reviewing the streets and were prepared upon his return, which I thought was the 23rd, but I could be wrong, to present to us a new map with some roads that were now maybe included. So we'll have a better idea of what roads now we need to make repairs on and whatnot. So I know it's been a lengthy process. We are continuing to make, unfortunately, small strides towards getting there, but we are getting there, I can assure you.
Any questions
Everything
regarding
else
golf
is-
carts?
Yeah, I have nothing else. So.
And nothing else? Mr. Mayor, about golf carts?
Yes,
Okay.
We have a sign out in City Hall showing golf cart roads, right outside here.
Yes.
Do you think that that is a wise idea? People walk in, they see that sign, they think they can drive their golf carts. And that is not the case, is that
No.
correct?
We most certainly can remove it.
I think we should until you get this ironed out.
Yep, very
Yep.
good. Good point. And
Good
yes, I
point.
have seen that map too. Anybody else? Okay. And nothing else, Mr. Brevard?
No, ma'am.
All right. From the staff, are there any other staff? Ms. Latricia, you got the floor. I'm sorry I forgot.
That's okay. I just want to present to our attorney, Kirsten Ballou, these beautiful flowers that are here on the dais, and a card wishing her a get well soon. She was under the weather. And this is from the council, staff, and employees.
Yeah, we've missed you. Not allowed to cry.
And you made her sick again.
We're glad you're back. Any other staff member at this time with an update of any kind? Seeing none, I'll move to the council. Anybody on the council have an update
I don't have an update, but I have some comments about the agenda.
about the agenda?
Uh-huh,
Okay, you have an announcement too.
I do.
I do too. So does the mayor.
Well, now or later?
I think this is a good time.
We're going to do it now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Then you can do your other thing.
I have another thing?
You said you did.
I don't have another thing. This is the only thing I have.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll announce your thing later.
Will you announce my thing also?
I will.
Thank you.
Good.
You're a new board member on the Florida Board of Mayors.
Oh, that. Oh,
Yeah, we're
yeah,
proud.
And
okay.
don't forget Terry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Terry has been, Terry, which committee, policy committee were you assigned to?
Utilities.
Utilities. We have people that are going to represent us at the Florida League of Cities. Mr. Robinson, which one did you get assigned to?
Municipal administration.
And Municipal Administration, there you go. And I got assigned myself to, what did I get assigned to? Give me a second. Economic Development and Planning. So I'm excited about that. There's 4 meetings a year that we will attend and represent not only our city, but Levy County and our citizens to try to make policy for the Florida League in the state of Florida. And that as they try to get legislative pushes through the state, through the federal government, through the legislature. So, okay, Mr. Robinson, you have the floor.
Okay, to preface my comments, these comments are mine, as I cannot speak on behalf of the other 4 counselors. But after I have concluded, I hope that they agree with me. The comments regarding the agenda are to the city manager, the city clerk, the city staff, and counselors. The purpose of the agenda is to provide the council with information that may or may not require a vote. Items on the agenda are placed there by staff or vendors or counselors. These items sometimes take weeks in order to provide the proper backup documentation. The council receives generally on a Thursday in order to review part of the council meeting. This gives the council but a few days to review, investigate where needed, and ask questions prior to the council meeting. However, as of late, there have been additions to the agenda after it has been given to the council. This is totally unacceptable. Case in point, at the first budget meeting, the council walked in and lo and behold, there was a stack of documents on our desk that should have been attached to the agenda for that meeting. We had no time to review that before the meeting. Granted, some were duplicates, but many other documents were not. The council does not have time to review documents such as this prior to a meeting. This week, the agenda was sent out. There was an edition afterwards on Thursday afternoon, and then another edition Friday afternoon. Both cases unacceptable. For the city manager, when he asked the staff for documentations for items to be placed on the agenda, this is not a request and should be and must be provided sooner rather than later by the staff. For the city clerk, it is her duty to provide the final agenda. Thus, after the initial agenda has been sent to the council, there should be no other additions to an item and no other additional documentation for any item on the initial agenda. If anyone asks her to place an item on the agenda after it has been sent to the council or to add additional documentation, it is her responsibility to say no, but would be glad to put the item on the next agenda for the next meeting. There should only be one exception to this, and that is if it is an emergency or an extreme emergency, then it should be placed on the agenda. If proper documentation is not initially provided for an agenda item by a vendor or staff or counselor, then this item should be pulled from the agenda and placed on the agenda for the next council meeting. The council has been lax in allowing additional items or additional documents to be either placed on the agenda after it has been initially distributed to the council or given to the council just before a council meeting. This needs to stop, and is up to the city manager, but mainly the city clerk, to see that it does not stop, that it does stop immediately, and that all documentation has been provided for any agenda item, thus giving the council proper time to study, ask questions if need be, prior to the council meeting. Again, I am hopes that the other member of the council agrees with this, and that city administration will move to stop any additions or revisions so that the council will have the final agenda when initially distributed and not have to worry about any additions to that agenda. So,
Discussion? You know me, I've always got discussion. In theory, I agree 100%. I can think of two. One of them is tonight, is one of the cases that happened tonight, is a grant, that if we did not do it tonight on tonight's agenda, we could not apply for the grant because it closes on August 31st. That was one of the two things that was added at the last minute. It was, and we do have a letter that was sent after the original agenda went out from the grant writer who said, oops, I forgot to give you this. That was, I believe, included in your packet, so that you could see that it was not the city manager's fault or Ms. Latricia's fault, if you want to put fault anywhere. That's something that you either do that or that particular grant, which I believe was a FERDAP grant, if I can remember right, so Florida Recreational Development Grant. If we were going to apply for that, and it's for Cornelius Williams, if we were going to apply for that, it had to be done at this meeting. It's those particular instances, and rather than add that on our desk tonight, we did send out a second agenda. The only other real time I can think of is if, and I don't even know how y'all feel about this. For example, when I get my agenda, and I know y'all are the same way, you mentioned research. Sometimes I go to Latricia and I'll say, would you please pull this for me to refresh my memory? How did we talk about this before? So she may pull some minutes for me before, or she may pull an ordinance, or she may pull a plan, something that we have. And I've done my research, and I know how I feel about it, but I can't give that to y'all. That's the Sunshine Law violation. I cannot send that to you, and I can't tell her to send that to you. But I may ask her to leave that on the desk when you find it, when you get here. That's the only thing that would be reference material that I would want you to see. Or that you might give to me, that you wanted me to see. Those are the only two exceptions I can think of.
The first thing that you said, I would deem that as an emergency situation. However, that came from Mr. Fred Fox.
It did.
And how many years has he been doing business with this city? And how many years does he know when we have a council meeting and it needs to be brought in?
Yeah. He
So-
apologized. He did know he oopsed, because that's exactly what he put in the letter. Oops, we forgot this. And you're right, he knows when they close, too. And this particular grant was written last year, I believe, or the majority of it was written last year, and it's just time to submit it.
Well, maybe we need to take a look at somebody else if he forgets. And it's been a year since he
He's
did it
usually
and
pretty
brought it to our
successful, though.
attention.
Yeah. But those are the really only two times I would think of, and you may not want my research, but you may want me to have yours at the same time. So I don't know how y'all feel about that.
So my question would be, is there a policy or procedure that determines how and when or if additions can be made to an agenda once it's been sent out? If not, and that's something that we need to discuss, then we need to have that discussion instead of simulating blame somewhere. If we don't like the way a process is being done, then yes, definitely we need to have a conversation about it. And everybody has a say and input related to it. In the event that if there is something that needs to be added to the agenda and it's something that can wait to the next cycle, then okay, yeah, fine, that may be something that we need to look at. If not, and it needs to be added, then it needs to be added. If it's only one or two things that are being added to the agenda, I don't see where, for me, it's causing a big issue with having to now review something, one extra or additional thing related to the agenda. If it is based on research, then maybe we need to look at or talk about when the agenda comes out and then speak with Ms. Latricia and determine whether or not we want to have the agenda sent out days a little bit earlier as opposed to when, and to have a set or cutoff time for when things can be added to the
I
agenda.
believe it closes on Tuesday now.
Tuesday at noon.
Tuesday at noon, so it closes pretty early. Her problem is, she closes it on Tuesday and people keep giving her stuff. So by the time she sends it to us on Thursday, she's usually picked up 3 or 4 things, mostly from staff. It never fails. She'll send out an email saying, closes at noon today. I mean, noon, she'll remind them a couple of times. I see it every week. Agenda
So-
closes at 2.
In order to keep that from happening, how do we want to address it? Do we want to make a hard stop for Tuesdays and nothing else is added unless it is an emergency, or do we allow it to continue to be that way? What do we need to do next?
I say we let our city manager be our gatekeeper. If she announces 12 o'clock on Tuesday and somebody hands her something on Wednesday, she goes to him and asks him if it's important enough to put on there. And if it's not, it gets kicked to the next one, just like Mr. Robinson said.
I agree.
Are you okay with that, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Excellent. I mean, and you're right, until we get a hard deadline, people are gonna keep doing it.
Yeah, it's got to stop somewhere, and I agree, though, we do have to have time to review it. Stuff, important stuff can't just get put on our desk unless it's an emergency.
Yeah.
Last minute, it's hard to vote when you haven't had the chance to read through it.
And especially the budget hearing that you referred to. The 6 or 7 things that were laying here that particular day. And I know I cannot manage an agenda and try to run a meeting and read at the same time. It just doesn't work for me. May work for somebody else, but doesn't work for me. Okay, anything else? I think we've resolved that. Everybody okay with
Good.
that? All right. Anything else from the council?
I have something, and I don't know if it really pertains to the city or if there is anything that can be done about it for us, related to us. But I was at a football game on Friday night, and first time I've ever seen, there were tons and tons and tons, almost like an infestation of flying ants. I don't know if there's something related to spraying we can do to help mitigate that.
Probably
But
some
like I say,
floorboard.
that's the first time I ever seen it. I don't even know if that's something that we can deal with as a city, or if
Were they at
it's-
Booster Stadium?
Yes.
That's where you saw them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
All
school,
on the bleachers.
school
That'd be
board
school
property.
board.
School board, okay.
Bad, huh?
Yeah, it was.
Any other council members at this time? You have one opportunity at the end. Anything from the mayor?
Yes, ma'am. I have a couple of things. First thing is our animal shelter. We have added a door to the cat room, a secondary door, which we were told was needed. The nonprofit is paying for that secondary door. That will be done this week. And then hopefully we will actually be able to help some cats as well as dogs. The other thing is those that have not been to that shelter, I recommend you reach out to the people around you and tell them about the shelter and let them go there and visit. What we want is a rescue. This council decided to call it Williston Community Rescue. So the goal is to rescue animals and to have them given out to adopted homes. My other thing is about infrastructure. As I have been riding around our city, and this is not meant to be negative toward our utilities department, I have noticed that our roads are deteriorating at an extremely rapid rate, and that there are potholes all over the place that should have a cold patch or something put in them. I know you guys are extremely busy. On my street alone, it looks like you did some patching, but there are others that were not patched. I don't know the reason. I'm not giving you a hard time about it. My street is not the only street. But if we could find a way to have a regular program of someone in the utilities department in the streets and parks to just drive around, they can see those potholes and do something about them before they get worse or someone completely damages their vehicle. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, item number 5 is new business. We have introduction of a new police officer by Chief Mike Rolls. Come on up.
Hey, Chief, if you would use that portable mic, please.
You know how to turn it on? Thank you, Chief.
Is that good enough, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
All right. Madam President, council members, and city manager, it is my honor to introduce our new police officer, Ms. Kaylee Smith. Kaylee is 24 years old and lives in the Dunellen area. Officer Smith worked for the FHP as a trooper in the Orlando area. After leaving FHP, her and her boyfriend, who is still an FHP trooper, moved to Marion County. While inquiring about law enforcement in the area, Officer Smith was referred to the WPD by my son, and I'm glad that he did. A little bit more about Officer Smith's background. She worked as a correction officer in Clark County Sheriff Department from 2017 to 2018, and as a FHP trooper from 2019 to 2021. She is also a horse trainer, and she's attending college to further her education. Officer Smith is now in her 3rd phase of training and has one more phase to complete. We're expecting no issues with her completing all of the phases. I'm glad to stand here today to present another great employee, not only to the police department, but to the city of Williston. Madam President, council members, city manager, and citizens, meet Officer Kaylee Smith.
Welcome. We're glad to have you. Hope to see you around.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes, ma'am. Let us know if there's anything we can do for you.
Thank you. Me as well.
around unless it's giving me a ticket.
Yes, sir.
Only if you deserve it.
Thank you. I never deserve it.
Then you won't see her.
Well, he pretty much covered everything. I was corrections from 2017 and 2018 in a work release department, and then I went back for another year and a half in the main department of the jail where they did the 60 days in. Narcoland, I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that, but that was exciting. And I'm a dog trainer and a horse trainer, and I was with FHP as he mentioned, and that's about it. That's all I do. So.
Thank you, Chief Rawls. Anything else, Mr. Mayor?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Any other staff? I'm asking one more time for staff. Okay, if not, we're going to move forward then to item B, discussion and presentation, Williston Lead and Copper briefing, Public Works Supervisor Donald Barber and Dennis Davis, Wright Pierce.
Yes, Madam President. The City of Williston, like many other municipal service providers, have older water service lines in the ground. This year at the Florida Rural Water Association Conference, one of the sessions covered lead service lines. Dennis Davis with Wright Pierce is going to provide a presentation to the council on the EPA standards and the compliance requirements that are on our near horizon.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Barber and members of the council. Dennis Davis with Wright Pierce. And so I wanted to just run through this very short presentation with you all to make sure that you all are educated on some upcoming requirements that were passed down by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and are obviously being implemented by the state of Florida's Department of Environmental Protection. And these are requirements that the city has to implement over the next year or so. And so,
Mr. Davis, would you advise me when you like to go to the next slide, please?
Next slide, please. That would be great. Yeah.
Just come get this one.
Do you know how to turn it on?
Question of the night.
I'm learning from Chief Rawls over there. Okay, Ms. Latricia, could you minimize? Yeah, that's perfect. So in regards to the lead and copper rule,
Make it a little smaller.
yeah,
Hit that button, now they make it a little smaller.
the lead and copper rule is a federal rule by the Environmental Protection Agency, U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, that has been around for a very long time, and it basically sets standards for public water systems on lead and copper, which was a very prevalent pipe material in our water distribution systems. Over time, the sources of lead have been identified and have been identified as being something that we want to get out of our water systems. And if everybody can remember back a few years ago, there was the big issue in Flint, Michigan's water system, and where they had done some things chemically within their system that caused there to be a high concentration of lead in people's drinking water. And so in reaction to that, the US EPA has recently updated the lead and copper rule to address some things that need to be taken care of. Next slide, please. So the new rule, its effective date was December of 2021. The requirements in there, though, have really been EPA and the state have really been trying to figure out how to implement these new requirements. The utility's first actions in terms of having to replace lead lines within the system are going to be required by October 16th of 2024. However, between now and October 16th of 2024, we have some things to do. And so one of the things that we have to do is a service line inventory. So every community in the United States has to do an inventory of the service lines. So we have our main lines that carry water all around the city, and from that main line up to somebody's house is what we call the service line. Obviously, that service line comes into a water meter, and then on the private side, the homeowner has a line that goes from that meter up to their house. And so we have to survey every line within the city to identify what it is made of.
May I ask a question about that?
Yep, absolutely.
The service line goes to the meter. Are you suggesting that the government, the EPA, is telling us that we have to, after it comes out of the meter, that we have to assume responsibility for the line that is coming out of the meter into a private dwelling?
To answer that in a short way, Mr. Mayor, yes. So,
At least have to survey it.
well, right, we'll get to all the details, yes, but the short answer is yes. So, let me just run through these, we'll get into some of the details. So we're going to have to provide public notification of the service line inventories. We're going to eventually have to, after October 16th of 2024, we're going to have to replace any lead service lines that we find. And for those, we're going to have to establish lead trigger levels, or the EPA is establishing lead trigger levels and action levels, which could affect us also. And then there has to be lead testing in schools in some instances. So we'll get into this. So let's go to the next slide. So back in 1986, the EPA outlawed the use of lead in water distribution systems. So theoretically, as we look around the city and we can identify homes that were built after 1986, theoretically there shouldn't be lead in those service lines. And so as part of an inventory, the city can sit down and say, okay, these houses were built after this date, they're not lead service lines. Now, the 1986 versus there's a date in 1989 where the state of Florida officially adopted the rule. So there's a little bit of uncertainty there that we're trying to work out within the state here, but for all intents and purposes, let's just say it's 1986 right now. So when we look at the new high school, middle high school, we would know that that was built more recently. We won't have to do any lead testing within the school there. So we have to do this survey for lines before houses before 1986. If we have records that can demonstrate that the line, the service line going to the residence was replaced, or it was some other material. For instance, if utilities had a database that said, hey, we went and did a repair on this house, and the material that we used was PVC or something along those lines, we could provide that documentation and note that in our survey. If not, if we get through all of the paperwork side of things that we can do to justify whether something was lead or non-lead, then we have to go out and start doing some digging. And right now, again, the EPA is pretty vague on what is acceptable, but Mr. Mayor, to your point, what the state of Florida, and as Mr. Barber mentioned, we have been working with the Florida Rural Water Association and they have been promoting some ideas on behalf of small communities like us. And what they're saying is, we go out to a water meter, we dig on one side, on the public side, we see what material that is. We go on to the other side of that meter, we do a quick dig and see what that is, and that's what we report as the material of construction for that. Now, that's not an absolute. I mean, we don't know everything that's in that line from point A to the house, or from the meter all the way to the main line, but this is what the state of, or the Florida Rural Water Association is recommending, and it appears like DEP is going to accept that. So we have to get that inventory done. That's both the paper side of it, plus this physical going out and looking at it, and have it submitted to DEP by October 16th of 2024. Those documents have to be available to the general public. They have to be able to come in and look at it and ask questions, and we have to provide that to them so that they understand what's there. Ultimately, after that, we have to put together a plan to go out and replace any lead lines that we find. We're not going to be allowed to keep those in there, but those are going to have to be replaced. The good news for us right now is there is some money available to start working on this. So Florida Rural Water has a pot of, I think the number is about $6 million right now to help small communities like us fund the research side of it, you know, going through doing the paperwork, doing the soft digs. In our conversations with Florida Rural Water right now, there's not a whole lot of people lining up for that pot of money. So the sooner we get in on it, the better, because $6 million doesn't go a long, long way. This isn't a terribly expensive project, but when you don't have it in your budget, as you all know, and having just gone through budget season, trying to squeeze anything else into the budget is going to be very hard. Once we get the survey work done, then as we get into, okay, now it's time to replace these, there will be additional money available through SRF to help with that funding. But we've got to make a pretty big push, you know, over the next year to get this documentation phase of this work done. Right now, you know, I haven't sat down, Mr. Barber and I, Mr. Bishop haven't sat down to talk through the details about how Wright Pierce can help you, or if you guys need our help with that. But we do have some ideas and things that we can do. But obviously for someone to sit down and you think about, I don't know how many parcels there are within the city limits, but to think about everybody that gets water service, it's a pretty big number to go through and do that paperwork. And then ultimately the field work, the you know, the digging of all of those surfaces that are not known what material they are. I guess the final thing is, you know, the very last bullet there, it talks about, well, how about if we don't know, if we just write unknown on there, on our survey? And writing unknown is essentially the same as saying lead. If you don't know, they're going to make you replace it. So that is not an option for us. So that's the quick presentation there. Like I said, I would anticipate working with Mr. Bishop and Mr. Barber to put together a proposal to help you all if possible and bring that back.
I didn't want to interrupt.
No, you go ahead. Okay.
So, it is on?
It must have timed out.
Does it time out? Oh, my word. Okay. 1986 is when the EPA decided that the lead solder, even though that says lead and copper, it is in fact lead.
Lead's what we're...
And lead is the culprit that they were dealing with.
Yes.
And that took them till 1986, but for paint, there is a thing called the rule of 1978, that any house that is painted with lead paint prior to 78 has to be tested for lead.
Yes.
So my question is, do you have any idea why it took from 78 to 86 to decide that the same lead that was in the paint was a problem for drinking water?
I don't have the answer to that. No, I can probably, you know, give some speculation on why, but no, I don't know.
You don't know the answer.
I don't know the
Obvious
answer.
somewhere.
Well, I just, you know, this is a serious problem. However, I have great concerns about the implementation and the ability to implement what the government is putting on, because even if we manage to get the city lines, and even if we manage to get the line leading from our meter to the house, many houses built before 1986 internally have copper pipe.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that copper pipe prior to 1986 is more than likely got lead solder in it because it's a better solder than the others.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in this legislation which is addressing, once it gets into the house, about remediation for people that are living in old homes. So we do all this, and they still are sucking lead down from inside their home.
Yeah, and I just want to add, I agree with you, there's nothing in this legislation that addresses doing anything inside the house. I do just want to address one thing. Just because we have lead pipe, lead solder in the system, doesn't mean that we're ingesting that lead. Systems are designed, part of the lead and copper rule requires us to, as entities, do what's called a corrosion control study. And so if our water is properly balanced, the lead isn't coming out of solution into a form that we can drink it, ingest it. Similar to the paint situation that you talked about, if the paint is on the house and it's fine and it's not chipping off and kids aren't eating it, it's fine, right?
So we just don't let the kids eat the paint.
But in the water system, like for Flint, the lead had been there for years, and what happened in Flint, they changed their water chemistry. They went from one source of water to another source, one treatment methodology to another treatment methodology, and all of a sudden, inside the pipelines, there was a corrosion issue. When that corrosion started, the lead came into solution, and people started drinking it, and it was in the water system. Wow. So I don't want to stand up here and wave a red flag that everybody needs to be worried about this, that I'm drinking lead, and oh my gosh, I'm going to get lead poisoning, and our water is balanced, but overall, the federal government wants to get that lead out of our systems, out of our water systems, so that we don't have to worry about another Flint in the future. So again, I don't want to stand up here and wave a red flag that, everybody's going to, be sick from this.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Any questions for Mr. Davis?
There's no idea of the cost involved.
Well, obviously, on the back end, we have no idea how much lead we have in our system here in Williston. Anecdotally, we hear from Mr. Barber, Mr. Bishop, that we have some lead lines, we have lead goosenecks on the service connections. We know there's some in our system. So on that side, Vice President Robinson, no, I don't know. On the front side, I think we can very quickly figure out what that cost is going to be, depending on the level of work that, Wright Pierce needs to do versus city staff. I think we have some innovative tools that we may be able to use to help make the process quicker and less costly. But, if I was going to say, I would hate to throw a number out right now, but I think we could quickly get to the immediate cost pretty fast in terms of.
Well, the reason I'm asking here, I'm looking at that X date up there, October 16th, 2024. That's basically is within this budget year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that money, those millions of dollars, send in a request for the whole $6 million and see what happens.
I think obviously, from a budget perspective, we're going to work real hard to get all of this upfront work, the planning, all of that work paid for. And then I think, through grant money, no outlay at all from the city's perspective. And then, there may be some point where we have to talk about, what part of this work is city staff going to do? We may end up having to put some of this on their shoulders. I don't know yet, but it may be something that has to be done. So.
I also noticed it said in there you're going to have to take pictures. Is that the pictures? Is that from each side that you dig down? Those pictures would be adequate.
Yeah, and we want that as documentation, right? The EPA wants to be able to come back and look and say, okay, you did this, let's look at it. We want to be able to prove it to the public what we've done too.
What if we don't have records that go back that far?
Then we go out and dig.
Okay.
I mean, we physically, once you exhaust all the easy avenues, checking paperwork, then we're out in the field digging.
Yeah, so go to every water meter and dig on each side.
Yep, absolutely.
Our side and their side.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for the education.
You're welcome.
Go after the money. Thank you. All right, item 5C, Resolution 2023-58, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Levy County, Florida, establishing authorization for the City of Williston's Northwest 7th Street Gate Station 3 project to repair and replace infrastructure needed. for safety and compliance and providing an effective date. Mr. Barber.
Yes, Council President Jones. The City of Williston has 3 operating natural gas gate stations. That it would be Monterey Gate Station, the Sewer Plant Gate Station, and number 3 would be the Northwest 7th Street Station. It's identified the oldest Florida gas transmission injection site here in the city. The station is experiencing some current operation issues, including overage reports. We have 11 valves there. It's an old setup, and those valves have been packed and repacked as much as can be possibly done, and it's time to replace that. We have a state inspection coming up here the week following, or the week of Labor Day week in September, and we need to have a plan for the Public Service Commission when they come in addressing that leakage. So with the supplement of some ARPA funding that's left, staff is recommending that the City of Williston accept a proposal from DevTech Sales, who is a sole source, and move forward on these repairs. You'll see their quote attached. Staff is asking for those ARPA funds on this part of the project, and you'll see another proposal next meeting for a second company that would do, this is the interior work of the station, then there will be exterior work on FGT, Florida Gas Transmission, and then our side to valve off that station so it can be decommissioned. This quote here is for them to actually rebuild the station. We're going to go from 11 valves down to 4 valves, get some injection from our side taken care of, integrated into that. That's that odorant that goes in, and basically have a brand new station when it's done. So this is the interior quote, and we'd like to get this on the books so that we can show the inspector that we are moving forward on this leakage.
Questions for Mr. Barber? If not, I'll entertain a motion for Resolution 2023-58.
I make a motion Resolution 2023-58 be approved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item D is Resolution 2023-58, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving the extension of the interlocal agreement for the school crossing guards for the 2023-2024 school year and providing for an effective date. City Manager Brevard.
Thank you, Madam President. So if you're not aware what this is the agreement that we have that pays for at least a large portion of the crossing guard that is supplied by the Chief of Police for the kids here in the city. So this is something that we've done every year. It's a document that I'm very familiar with. I did it the last couple of years at the police department where the city manager signed it. It does not pay the complete total cost of the REB. It is short a couple of dollars, but it is the most we can get from them based on their agreement, which is meeting at least the minimum wage. So it's something you've seen before. It's something we will see again in the future, and it should come back, I think, every year for approval.
Okay, any questions for the City Manager? If not, I'll entertain a motion for Resolution 2023-59.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2023-59.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from anyone? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item E is Resolution 2023-60, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, authorizing the submission of an application for the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program FEMA 4673-DR-FL for electrical distribution system upgrades to the Florida Division of Emergency Management and designating the City Council President with signing authority and providing for an effective date. Ms. Jones.
Good evening, Council. We would like to apply for the new FEMA hazard mitigation grants for electric, and this is really exciting for us because typically you can't get money for electric, but FEMA is offering this for storm hardening. I've learned a lot about power poles, and switches and all kinds of things. So if you have any questions, I might be able to actually answer them now. But this is a $225,000 project cost with a 25% match, but we already have the match because we already have some of the equipment. So this isn't going to cost us much if we do get awarded. These are reclosures. I don't know if you guys remember a couple months ago they were talking about reclosures. City manager was discussing reclosures, and we would like to upgrade some that are not working, add some in areas, and also replace some wood power poles with those ductile iron ones. Those are going to help us in case of we have any collisions with vehicles, and it's also going to help us with storms.
Okay. Questions for Ms. Jones? No questions? Okay.
Now, if the money's there,
Yeah.
go get it.
Okay, so we entertain a motion for Resolution 2023-60.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-60.
Second.
I have a motion and a second from Ms. Hines. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Bless you.
Thank you.
I didn't do it, I promise. Item F is Resolution 2023-61, a resolution for the City Council for the City of Williston, Florida, authorizing the President of the City Council to execute contracts for the 2023-2024 Group Health, Life, Dental, Vision Supplemental, and the 457B plans for the City of Williston, and approving an effective date. Ms. Patterson.
Good evening, Council. Thank you. Attached, you'll find the 2023-2024 fund year renewal rates for your health insurance, life, dental, and vision. The city's health renewal pricing reflects the Florida's Municipal Insurance and Trust, FMIT, pooled claims experience and anticipated decreases in the healthcare costs for 2023-2024. The attached quotes for medical and prescription drug benefit coverage defines the current rates and the upcoming renewal rates through United Healthcare. There's 3 plans to choose from that you found in your packets, and I want to note that dental and vision did not change.
Great.
Good.
Okay, any questions? I know there's a lot of pages here. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it all. A lot of work, could tell on your part. Any questions regarding the cost and the way the bids were, anything like that? Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I have a question that has been on my mind ever since the budget workshop. Healthcare went down, insurance for healthcare.
Yes, sir.
In a country where everything is spiraling out of control. How did we get our healthcare to go down? Was there increased coverage, increased responsibility by our employees? Was there reduced things that are, there has to be a mechanism that allowed health insurance to go down for us when it's going up for everybody else. Do you know what that is?
Yes, sir. Part of it is the fact that our claims went down as well. So that was a piece of it. Also, looking at the other 2 plans, or asking them to look at other plans that we could utilize in order to offer a more affordable plan for family and children. So she did her research on that. She went to the underwriters, and like I say, as they discovered that our claims had went down, that was a part of the decrease.
So let me might add, if I may, Madam President,
Yes, sir.
they did not discover,
Right, you discovered.
Crystal discovered,
Yeah.
that our claims were less. And because of that, and because we actually looked at going outside of FMIT, resulted in a lower cost for insurance. Simple as that.
So the coverage remains the same.
It does. And actually, employees will have 2 other options to look at.
Yeah, the one remains the same, and there are 2 other options.
Correct.
Right,
Plan 3 remains the same.
thank you. Any other questions regarding the health insurance? Okay, I have a question on page 58. If you can go there. We need to check there. I know one of the people that has to sign these documents. I want to make sure I check in the right place.
Correct.
So it is voluntary dental and vision, correct?
Correct.
Okay, not employer paid.
Correct.
Okay, so if they choose to take it, they take it.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Just want to make sure that I was correct when we do that, because I know somebody's going to put it in front of me, and I'm going to have to sign it. Okay, any questions further? If not, this is Resolution 2023-61.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-61.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item G is Resolution 2023-62, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving the Passero Associates Supplemental Agreement 23-23R regarding the airport terminal building project, authorizing appropriate parties to sign any documents required to execute same on behalf of the City of Williston and providing for an effective date. Mr. Stiegel.
Yes, ma'am. This is the first of many, many times that you'll see me here in the next few weeks. We've got 4 items on the agenda tonight. We've got another few that are going to be on tomorrow. Most of it will be dealing directly with the terminal project. This is the first of those. This is a Passero work order assigned to the agreement or to the construction aspect of the terminal building. You have any questions?
Questions for Mr. Stiegel? Again, many pages here that have to do with that. I think all the questions I had have been answered. So, any questions? This grant funded. That's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see several of those documents over the next
Yeah.
few weeks as well.
Yes. Okay, so this again is Resolution 2023-62. If you're so
I make a
inclined.
motion that we approve Resolution 2023-62 as read.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion of any kind? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Resolution 2023-63, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving the contract agreement with Gray Construction for the airport terminal building, as amended by the city attorney, authorizing appropriate parties to sign any documents required to execute same on behalf of the city and providing for an effective date. Mr. Stiegel.
Yes, ma'am. This is, another aspect of the terminal project. Passero is representing the city of Williston on the construction side. They've done all the development and planning for it. And last meeting, we awarded the contract, or we awarded the bid to Gray Construction, and this is their contract to proceed with construction. Now, that being said, we're not going to break ground immediately once this contract is signed. We're still waiting on some grant funding to come in from the feds before we present everything and break ground. We want to make sure that all the funding is secured before we, start building a silo and realize that we don't have the funds to finish it.
Exactly. And it's to the attorney's liking now.
Yes, we added in a provision that essentially says that the contract is voidable if we do not obtain that grant funding, which was an important aspect. So now I'm happy with it.
Then we changed from county to city.
Yes, we did.
Thank you. Okay, so now, as I said, Resolution 2023-63.
Make a motion, we approve Resolution 2023-63.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from anyone? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item I is Resolution 2023-64, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving the bid amount of $60,858.75 for the Island Freight Roof Project, authorizing the city staff and the city attorney to negotiate final edits to the contract agreement, authorizing appropriate parties to sign the contract agreement once final legal approvals have been given and provided, and providing an effective date. Mr. Stiegel.
Yes, ma'am. If the council remembers, we brought this up several months back, and we learned that we should have gone through a different process. We went through that different process, put an RFQ out, or RFP out, and nobody bid the project. So at that point, we sought legal counsel, and were advised that we could go with one of the prior bids. So that's what this is.
Excellent.
We reached back out to True Force Roofing and said, hey, are you guys still interested in the project? And given that this has been 6 months, they're going to have to update their, their cost, and that's what this is.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so is there any way we can get the name Island Freight out of it?
I mean, we can.
That was my,
That was just, that's
I know
the-
it's an identifier to the building,
That's all it is, yes, ma'am.
but they haven't been there in years. That was the only
Yeah, it's just
thing
a,
that
it's just a
kinda-
common name for the
Can we
building.
call it something else?
What would you like to?
I don't know, it's, Monterey Boat is in there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it, and it's not their engineering building, what is it, a
They've been
storage?
calling it the storage building.
The storage building. I mean, I don't know, it just seems strange to keep calling it Island Freight when they haven't been, I mean, probably 20 years, 25.
It's the same thing as calling a string trimmer a weed eater.
Right, I guess.
We can amend it to say the Monterey Boat Storage Building, commonly referred to as the Island Freight Building.
I mean, even the bid has Island Freight and not the city of Williston. I mean, that's what caught my eye more than anything was the actual thing. It said, it was addressed to Kelly at Island Freight.
So I will say that Kelly has done the vast majority of the legwork on this.
Right.
And has been very vehement about getting this project done.
Yeah, it definitely needs a roof.
It does, and I mean, she's put in all the work on this project, so
Terrific.
it probably wouldn't be getting done without her.
Nice to see you're here tonight. All right, so y'all,
Maybe after you get it done, you can rename the building for the council president?
I mean, you can name it anything you want to name it, it just
Name it after
seems,
Kelly.
Name it after Kelly.
I don't think he meant it the way it sounded.
It was not meant to be negative.
Fair enough.
I mean, really, it's the Island Freight. How many people remember Island Freight? I mean, there's 3 people in the whole room.
Right.
Who even know what Island Freight is. So, think about it.
Yes, ma'am.
I got a question
I've got no
about
problems
the-
with it.
Yes,
I got
sir.
a question about the contract. It
Mhm.
says that it's gonna reuse the air vents. Why are they gonna reuse air vents instead of, if it's gonna be a brand-new roof, why not have brand-new air vents too?
We can talk to him about that.
I mean, it just says reuse air vents. I mean, if it was my roof, I would be asking that question.
May I ask, are they passive vents?
I believe so. I'm not a
There's-
roofer,
There's no
so
motor.
I don't know a
to-
whole lot about it.
Okay, there's no motor to them, right?
No, sir.
That means they're passive.
Correct.
So it is a metal roof?
Yes, sir.
There's no reason not to reuse the existing passive vents on a metal roof. Unless they're compromised.
Or a different color. It would look kind of weird if they were even a different color.
Red boots and vents is normally comes with new installation, any roof.
They could have been part of their process to keep the cost lower initially.
Yes, probably was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worth asking the question, but I've never seen where they've reused one, especially we don't know the color.
We can absolutely address
Good
it.
catch. At least ask them, I would
Sure.
say.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't even notice that part. All right, any other questions for Mr. Stiegel? Any questions for the attorney?
Just as a quick FYI, I know that it's in there, and it's in the resolution as well. There are a couple of little things with the agreement, like adding in an E-Verify provision or public records provision, sort of standard things that I do want to make sure that we get done, but, and our standard insurance language and things like that. But those are the things that are standard. So as long as you approve it with our standard additional
Airport
provisions.
standard language.
Yes.
Any questions regarding the airport standard language? Protections for the airport? If not, we will entertain a motion for resolution 2023-64.
I make a motion that resolution 2023-64 be approved.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item J is Resolution 2023-65, a resolution for the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, to approve an order for a bare root / pine seedlings for reforestation of the multiple areas at the Williston Municipal Airport and providing an effective date. Airport Manager Stiegel.
Yes, ma'am. As most of you know, we've been clearing a lot of trees out at the airport. And I think we've done 3 separate harvests at this point. And this is round 1 of the reforestation project. So there's multiple sections all over the airport that have been harvested already, and are past their 1-year window to start the reforestation. And I was advised by our forester that we need to go ahead and plant the order now. That way we can have the trees secured for when everything else comes. Just as an advisory, you will be receiving a couple of more things here or there, coming up dealing with reforestation as far as RFQs that forestry has put out on our behalf. So we'll be bringing all that back to you guys for approval when those contracts come. It'll deal with herbicide and chopping and mulching of the ground for preparing everything for the trees to be planted. This is just step 1 for
And this
reforestation.
is just the trees. It doesn't include planting them, right?
Yes, ma'am.
It does include planting them?
No, it does not. Just the trees.
Okay. Do we have any idea who's going to plant them for us?
No,
Not
ma'am.
yet.
Forestry puts out RFQ for everything.
Oh, perfect.
They do essentially do all of this for
That's
us.
great. Terrific.
Quick question, are these the pines you were telling me about that are supposed to harvest faster than the other pines, remember?
Yes, sir.
Name
Yeah,
of
they're,
the
we have a choice, or we had a choice on longleaf or slash. The longleaf is a little more expensive, and the reason being is you can go in there and harvest, the needles. A lot of people use it for hay. The big problem that we would have with that is we have to maintain the lanes for them to be able to do that. And we don't necessarily have the time or the manpower to maintain those lanes properly. Plus it added about, $10,000 to $15,000 to the contract. So based on us not having the manpower to maintain it, it didn't look like a reasonable investment. And the forester agreed with me on that. But yes, these are
I'm gonna
supposed to be
date myself here.
10 to 12 year turnaround.
About 20 years ago when we did this, at least 20, it could have been more like 30 when Mr. Yancey was here. It's been a long time ago. We actually had somebody who did that for us. They paid us to harvest the pine straw, and they kept it groomed underneath the trees. And I know that it was Standridge Pine Straw, I know, and out of Chiefland.
Okay.
I don't know if they're still in business. But
They are.
as far as I know, Mr. Standridge died, I know, but I think his son took it over.
Okay.
But they did an excellent job. It was like you say, a manicured lawn, and they kept them evenly spaced and harvested the pine needles and paid us to harvest the pine needles.
Yeah, some people pay, I think, around $100 an acre for that.
Yeah, so you might look into that too if you're interested. Of course, that's a different kind of pine, like you say, but I know you're probably too far along for that at this point, but
It's not good for the wildlife,
yeah.
Well, I mean, we tend to discourage wildlife at the airport, unfortunately.
Well, they keep it so well maintained, you pretty much they can't build a habitat under it because they keep it so groomed. And they keep the trees cut up so they can mow under them.
Okay.
It was
It's
really
definitely
tough.
worth looking into.
It
Nothing else.
It is. It was really beautiful when they did it. And Mr. Yancey was a logger, so he's the one who started that program. All right, so we are to Resolution 2023-65. I'll entertain a motion. You mighty quiet on this end.
I'm waiting on that end.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2023-65.
65.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and I have a second. Do I have any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much. Item K, discussion with possible action on the foreclosed Peso property. Ms. Jones.
Thank you. The city of Williston foreclosed on the property located at 541 West Noble Avenue in Williston. The property is in poor condition, and we have an attached letter here from our building official. He did not go inside, he just took a look around. But you can see that he says there's extensive structural damage to the roof. Interior finish is in disrepair. Electrical systems and components are damaged beyond repair. The envelope is in overall poor condition, and there was apparent extensive damage to the whole structure from water because the roof collapsed. I did talk to some realtors, got some comps. They said that it could go up to $200,000 if the land was nice and clear. Now, I just want you guys to remember that this is a very small lot. I have had a little bit of interest, and there are concerns about what kind of business could go there if they needed to have parking or a retention area for water. So I'm just putting it back in your hands, and we can discuss what you guys want us to do with it. You want us to clean it up? You want us to put it on the market? You want us to keep it and do something cool with it?
Anybody have any ideas? You're right, it's less than a quarter of an acre. I think it was .22 or something like that. It's right on the corner.
Me personally, I don't want to do anything cool with it. I want the city to make some money on it, whatever that means.
Well, the reason I brought that up was because we're always looking for more room, and it's actually less expensive for us to keep it than it is for us to buy another lot. So if there was something you guys needed space for, like CalLink or something in the future, it'd probably be cheaper to keep it. But I don't know if we have any plans right now, so.
Are there things in it that can be salvaged?
That's not something I could comment on. I don't think it's really safe enough to go in there and look. What we've seen so far, almost everything looks like it's so water damaged or broken.
Okay. If you will come to the podium, if you have something to add, and state your name for the record and your city of residence.
Yes, ma'am. Jeremiah Platt. I am a resident of Williston. I actually have interest in that building, and there is things you can do. It is a small lot, and we've looked inside from the windows. We know what caused the water damage to the roof, and it's only the south side of that main building. But we do have ideas of what we can do with that. And it's like you said, it's .21 acres, but you do have that tractor supply retaining wall right there, so you're not going to put anything heavy there, because obviously the foundation. But we do have ideas to tear it down. If we were to be able to get this, we'd like to tear down about half the building, and then we have other ideas to maintain the integrity of the outside, to keep the same theme, or not the same general design and the aesthetics of it, because we like the small town feel. We just moved here last year after I retired, so we like to do that, and we have big plans. We like to pitch a proposal, but again, I know the city's trying to make money. I think bringing a small business in would be a better option for the city in the long run.
But you would tear it down, or most of it? You said part
Most of it, yeah. They did build an addition to it.
Yes.
Yeah, but that addition it doesn't fit what we want.
Right.
And there would be room for parking. There would be room for what we wanted to do with that.
So we can't just take a proposal, we
Oh,
have
yeah,
to
I realize
surplus the
that.
property,
Yeah.
but you can surplus it with price plus use. So if somebody wanted to use it for something that you guys liked the most, but right now we just need to know if you want us to tear it down or just sell it as is.
I think it would depend on what they would pay for it.
Well, it sounds like we could get like an extra $70,000 or so if we tear it all down.
Oh. And like, we're gonna have to have an engineer that tells us that that building anything can be salvaged, because our building official says no.
Yeah, I know it says in here that it's more than 50%. So that means it needs to come down. Y'all have taught me that at least.
Yeah, and that means it needs to adhere to the current code.
Right.
The entire building, if
Yeah.
it's more than 50%.
Right, and that's what it says. He did state that.
I want to throw something out and
Yes,
see
sir.
if it sticks against the wall. There is a need for stuff
in this building that needs to be stored. You got a whole room full of stuff back here that needs to be taken out and stored. And I'm sure that there's other items that could be stored, huh?
We just moved it in there.
No, that's been in there from the get-go. Yes, it has. And that was supposed to be put for emergency services and for a place for the counselors to go in there when they come into this building to work, and you can barely make it in there. My point is, since it's such a small space, if we built a good storage area right there for the city where we could store stuff up there.
We have an archives building already on 2nd Street. No, 1st Street, excuse me.
Can this go in there? Can
It
this stuff
just
go
got
in there?
moved from there to here. That's what I'm telling you. All that was in the archives building. They moved it over here so they could get to it. Somebody back me up on that, please. He's looking at me like I'm crazy.
Okay.
This is our new records room. All these records were down at the Archive Center because it's the way that building is set up, and there's air and stuff that can destroy all of these paperwork that we have back here that needs to be retained.
Okay.
So that was moved from there here. I'm just still in the process of trying to find a day to get it all in order and have a retention date on it and everything.
And where are you going to put it? You going to leave it there?
Yes, sir, it's going to be on the shelves that we have purchased after it's all cleaned
So
up.
we're not going to use it as it was originally supposed to be used?
Correct.
Okay, that's my point. You got a small lot up there. If we put a building up there, we could use that as a storage building to archive and for all the other stuff that we have, records that we have here in the city. Or we can make some money on it one way.
I say make some money on it.
That's-
Mr. Bishop, I saw your hand first.
As far as the archive building down on 2nd, it is slap plumb full with stuff and offices. There's no more room.
Right. That's why you moved that here, so you could put that in there. Is
Yes,
that where the inventory is?
Some of it, yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
some of the inventory.
Yeah, it's a non-stock
I
inventory,
haven't been
but
in there
still
a year or
inventory.
so. Matter of fact, the pictures I took popped up, so I know it's been about a year since I've been there. Ms. Jones, I saw you next.
I just wanted to say that you're both right.
We're both right.
There was always stuff in there, but now there's more stuff.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So you're both right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're right. There was originally stuff in there with the cots and all the things for emergency management, and now they've moved all the stuff from the archives in there too. Mr. Bullock, I saw you next.
I mean, I just think that's a premier lot. I like the idea of seeing another business come to town and
Me too.
get something in there going to benefit Williston.
But again, if you're going to keep half the building, it's got to be brought up to the current code here.
You know, let somebody buy it and bring it up to code and put a business there. If there's a business that can fit on that lot and help Williston and help the city make money on a lot, that's where my vote is.
Right, get it back on the tax roll.
So one of the things that we can do, you guys, I mean, I think the attorney could back me up, is that when you do the surplus, you put conditions that say, within 6 months, this building has to be permitted to be brought up to code. You have to have an engineer study to tell us whether or not they should save it. If they can't save it, it has to go. Like, all those conditions can be put up on that. Because what we don't want to do is sell it to somebody who opens it up and says, oh gosh, this was a big mistake, I can't fix it. And then we just have to foreclose on it again.
Yeah.
Were we getting bids on it?
I have a lot of interest in it. There's a lot of interest, but I have not surplused it because I didn't know if you guys wanted to keep it, because like what I was saying, you can't buy property in Williston anymore.
Let's get some bids on the thing and see what we can get for it.
Well, the question
So
is,
how do you
we
wanna
want to
bid it?
clean it first, or do we want to bid it out like it is?
This interest is as is.
You can do as is.
Then let's get the bids on it as is and bring it back and let's
Right.
see what we can do with
Right.
it.
If we don't like it there, then we can explore with the idea of us tearing it down and then re-getting some bids, or no matter what, we can't build a shelter unless we tear it down and build a shelter, from what it sounds like. So I think the first step is get bids as is.
Right, and then do you want to give a stipulation of what they're going to use it for?
That might not be a bad idea.
If that's allowable. Is that allowable?
Use can, I mean, it has, all three things have to be ranked, so you can't say, oh, I like this use, right? I'll let the attorney do it.
Yeah.
So you can add that as a criteria when you put out your request for bids. You can say the bid will be awarded to highest price and best use, and we'll rank those depending on this. So you can add it as your criteria. And then you also always retain the right to reject all of the bids and go again.
There you go. And if
Let's
that
do
doesn't
that.
work, we could tear it down.
Let's do that.
Could always tear it down and get more for it at that point.
Do you want to give them a time frame so we're not looking at this building for another 5 years?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you have it by next meeting?
No, I'm not talking about me.
Uh-huh.
I'm talking about the building. If they win it, we give them 6 months to start a permit process or a design process? 90 days is not enough time to design that, engineer it,
6
permit
months is
it.
a long time.
Yeah, but it's not a lot of time when you have a building that now you have to go into, decide what you're going to do. You're going to have to go through SwiftMud. You're going to have to go through maybe DOT. It's a, but at least 6 months until they give me like a site plan. Give me some movement.
Would 6 months be okay, or would 9 months be better?
I mean, 9 months would be better, but I don't want to watch it again. Do you remember when we reduced the lien for Matt Crandall? We gave him a year to do something. And then if he couldn't do it in a year, he had to come back and explain why.
Let's do 9 months.
Okay.
That'd be my suggestion.
And that's only if we accept a bid.
Right, sure.
Then it would be 9 months from the date of accepting the bid.
Yeah. And
We've looked at it
regular
for
code
years.
enforcement will begin as soon as they buy it. So they will have to start cutting the grass, cleaning it up
Okay.
right away.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so we're just going to give you marching orders on that. We don't need to vote on anything.
No.
Go for it.
Okay, thank you.
Bring it back to us when you get where you're going. All right, so let me see, where are we?
Well,
L, thank you very much. Discussion with possible action of lien reduction request. Ms. Jones.
Okay.
If you will, state your name and your city of residence.
My name is Adriana Gonzalez, and I live in the city of Lakeland, Florida.
Lakeland. Okay.
My father owns, well, he actually owns several properties in the city of Williston, and he currently has one left downtown. And I represent him as his realtor in the city of Williston. We're asking for a reduction of lien because we were intending to sell the property, but I also wanted to present to the city members a possibility of building a commercial building there. I don't know what the process would be. He basically told me, go over there and speak for me. So this is my first time doing something like this. So I'm not quite sure how it all works, but
I'll try to walk you through it.
so that's basically what he wanted to do, and he was actually talking about, I think it's zoned residential because it's about 0.5 acres right next to a laundry facility. And he was talking about making warehouse storage units.
And it's just one lot, right?
It's
No,
2 lots.
can,
It was
Let-
three
let's
three
start
lots
from the
last time
beginning.
I remember. Yeah,
let's start from the beginning.
yeah, let me, are you the current owner or potential buyer?
My father owns it.
Your father, so your father's Mr. Roswell? Okay, Ms. Jones, go from there. Tell us what we need to know. Is it 3 lots in an L shape? That's what I remember.
Okay, so I wasn't told that I was reducing liens on all 3 lots. I was just told on the one lot that was getting sold.
Okay.
But because we put the lien together for all 3 lots, that's not an issue. We can go ahead and work on that all together. But there are 3 different parcels.
I remembered that.
And I don't know what the zoning is. That had nothing to do with this agenda item. This was just for a reduction of liens, so I'm not sure whether you could put a commercial, I don't think you can put a commercial storage unit downtown, but I could check. But this is,
Yeah, that's a totally different issue.
yeah, this
Okay.
agenda item is just for a reduction of lien. So as of today, the lien is $25,050. And they were requesting a lien reduction of 5%. because their contract was for $20,000.
So reduction of 5% or a reduction to 5%?
To 5%, because they
That's what I
told me
thought.
that they had an offer for $20,000.
That is correct.
Okay.
Now, I have a question, because as far as I understand it, there's only 2 properties. Where is the other property located?
They were in an L shape
The other property
before.
was sold without a title search.
Oh, it already sold?
Mhm.
Okay, so there's only 2 pieces left.
Okay, but did the city sell that, or?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Somebody else sold it, and it didn't
I
have a
assume
title
your dad
search.
sold it because he owned it.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, because we literally, he didn't remember he had these properties until about 6 months ago.
That can't be true, because we talk to him all the time.
To my dad?
Yeah, to the
Yeah,
property
but-
owner.
and the
Wayne
last-
talks to him all the time.
And the
It
last
can't
time I
because-
remember talking to him, he walked away from it completely
He
and said
told
he
us to
wasn't
take it.
interested at all. He said, take
The
it,
one
I'm not
downtown?
interested.
Or the other properties in Williston?
All 3 of them.
The ones we're talking about with the
I've
lien
sold
reduction.
6 properties in the city of
Well,
Williston.
the 3
in the
that
past
are
6 months.
Well,
together. he
which
said
ones are
you
you talking
take
about?
it.
Maybe we're not talking about the same properties.
On 121, I believe, there's a street called.
Are we talking about the same properties?
I'm talking about the one downtown. It's 50.
The one by
if
the
you get-
laundromat.
Yes.
That's 27, US 27.
Yeah. It's one property and
So
then
one
a
was
small
taken
property in the back.
at tax sale from, one was just taken from the Levy County, a tax sale, and so they didn't do a lien search. It's fine, title search. Because the lien is all attached, I'm very happy to just wipe this whole thing out with your permission and whatever you guys decide to reduce this to.
My problem is that the fines have been accruing since December of 2020
Right.
at $25 a day. And we're sitting here basically being asked this $25,050 in fines go down to 0.
Basically. And the fines were actually accruing since 2015, but the lien had been improperly done, so we redid it in 2020, so it's about 4 times that amount.
I'll go with 2020, no problem with
Well,
that.
legally we have to,
I know, I
but that's
know.
how long we've been dealing with that property.
I'm having a problem to take that down. You've been in contact with the owner, nothing has been done, he knew it was accruing, and we're coming, and someone's coming here and saying, take it down basically to 0, then why do we have a board that finds these, that puts liens on these places and fines them if we're just gonna throw it out the window and have $0? That just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, we paid $4,000 to clean the property.
Hold on.
About a month
Let us
ago.
talk about it for a minute, if you will.
If we bring it down to 5% and then add the $250 for admin, it's $1,502. It's more than we'll get if it goes to tax sale, so.
I know, we're gonna reduce it from $25,000 to $1,600.
But it is under contract, so somebody's buying it and wants to use it, which is what we really want.
And did you say that it is more than we would likely get if we did it for tax sale?
Well, Levy County picked up the third lot, so they could pick up these 2 as well. Sell it for tax sale, and we won't get anything.
That's right.
So, from a business point of view, this gains money.
Now, I do just briefly want to caveat something. Just because Levy County has sold a property at tax sale does not mean that our lien is extinguished.
Yeah, somebody
So
has
the
this
current property owner, by not doing a title search, takes on the risk of liens that exist on the property that they are not aware of. And so because our lien is recorded, we do still have the ability to go in, even with a new property owner who's purchased that one parcel that was sold at tax sale. So if Levy County did come in and sell these at tax sale, it doesn't mean that we couldn't. It just, candidly, it makes it more complicated, for sure.
Right.
But it doesn't extinguish our right to do so. So I just want to, that little caveat.
I think the mistake that the city made was that we put all 3 properties on one lien. And obviously, that mistake won't be made again. But because of that, when one property went to tax sale and the other 2 didn't, they didn't all go to the same owner. So now we've got separate owners, and now they want to sell again. And it's just it would be very difficult to gets a portion of a lien from a new owner. I mean, we could do it, I'm sure, but if it were up to me, I would just reduce the lien to whatever amount you're comfortable with.
I don't know that I want to go all the way down to 1,500 plus 250. I mean, originally, I was reading it as reduction to 5%. So you're saying the 5% is 1,500?
5% of 25,050 plus the $250 admin fee.
That's my question. Somebody tell me how much that is, because that's what
It
it
was
said.
1502.50.
1,502. That includes the 250?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do y'all think?
I mean, I agree with you guys about it not being a lot, but like I said, they only had it on the market for 35,000. They have an offer for 20,000, so it's not like the property's worth. It's not even worth the price of the lien.
I mean, is there a way to just vote on how much money you would just say, and just say, well, for our work and everything involved, do 5,000?
Yeah.
And reduce to each lot or to the two lots combined? How does that work?
I don't know that I'm clear on, and I think I'm a little confused, how many properties are for sale? Just one property?
That's
To
what it-
currently, both properties.
Oh, yeah.
Together on one MLS. Correct, because the second lot is a very small little piece towards the back of the front lot. So there's no way if I sold that second lot separately,
Wouldn't have access.
they wouldn't have access unless the city granted some kind of street that could go to it.
Easement of some kind.
So, given that information, the cleanest way to do it would be to, because there has been that tax sale, someone else has purchased that one parcel, and these two other parcels are under contract. If we determine an amount, then we would extinguish the lien over all three properties, call it done, obviously subject to future code enforcement liens to be placed on them. That would be the cleanest way to do it, and would give everyone the best, most marketable title.
Okay, so you're saying if we said 5,000,
Sure. Or any amount.
we would divide it in three. Is that what you're saying?
So if you added the third lot, could you do 6,000, which would be 2,000 a lot?
Can I just interject?
Yes.
Adding the third lot, the people, unless they're trying to do something, like get a permit to do something, they have there's no thing holding their feet to the fire to pay their portion. And then the people who are trying to sell this won't be able to go and close because the
Oh, well,
lien
I would
won't-
do it separately.
But
I
they
can't do it
purchased it with, but they purchased it with a lien on it, so.
I know, but unfortunately, like I said, the lien, Kirsten, help me, but the lien has all three parcels on it. So I can't clear half of it, can I?
No. So
I
when
can't.
you clear it, you'll want to clear all of it. Now, what you can do is essentially the way that and Laura and I have had this conversation, and obviously it's ideal in moving forward. We will be making sure that each lien is placed on each parcel. The problem is that, or the way that I interpret it, is that jointly and severally all of those parcels are responsible, which means you could go after one parcel for the whole thing. You could go after all the parcels each for the whole thing, because that is the way that the lien is written currently. What my recommendation would be is, because we have this in front of us right now, settle up on the sale from the two parcels that are currently on sale, and then extinguish a full lien, which extinguishes it on all three properties. I think that gives the council what they are sort of looking for, and correctly places the financial obligation on the individual that initially incurred the code enforcement lien.
That's true.
Okay, okay, that makes
So
sense.
that the third parcel that's already sold at tax sale just gets forgiven
It would be
at that
extinguished
point.
at that point.
Okay, so we need to come up with a dollar amount, what it amounts to, for these other two parcels. Yeah,
For both parcels?
together. That's what I would do.
I hate to do that.
I do too, but it's.
I hate to do that, but the way she explained it, that would be the easiest, quickest,
Yeah.
cleanest,
Yeah.
and at least we'd get a couple of bucks.
And that still don't hurt y'all too bad on the sale. I mean, it's
Well,
still-
it kind of does, because I paid, we've been, like I told you, I had a company from here in the city of Williston come and clear the lot as requested by the city, and it cost us $4,200 to clear it, plus we're paying now the church from across the street to continue to clean the property, because I don't have anybody here in this city that could clean it.
But I mean, that's part of owning land.
Yeah, that's why we're trying
everybody-
to sell it, because now
Well, I
we're not
know, but
building here.
Those are prices that everybody that owns land, I mean, I have to mow my yard. That's just part of life, I think. I don't know.
And he really did. When I was on the planning and zoning at the time, and he stood right here and said, "It's yours. I wipe my hands of it. You know, I don't want anything to do with it. Do what you will with it." It's a wonder we didn't foreclose on it right then, instead of letting the fines just go up like it did. Because I remember that specific. He was actually here that day and said that. So I don't know. I agree. That sounds, the 5,000 sounds like a good.
Not a
Option, too.
penny less.
What do you think? I see you. I see down there. What you think? You're being very quiet down there. You want more? Yeah, I think it's bad to set the fines and then not collect them.
It is. It
To let
is.
'em- to ignore them completely and
And
let
for
'em-
it to be, almost 4 years maybe, that they have been accruing,
Oh, yeah.
to go down to 5% is a bit much. I like to see 50%.
Well, somebody come up with something. Gotta
Well,
go.
I'd say 5,000. I mean, it's truly, really a blessing. We're taking money off of what's money owed. I mean,
Yeah.
We are, but we've also had people having to go out and do whatever it is that they do related to that, and that costs money.
Right, it does.
So we're not even getting a portion of, what it's cost in order to go and do those things related to that. And if you have been in
I
constant
think it's that $250 is the
communication-
filing of the lien.
Yes.
Yeah, the
And
$250
the
administration
administrative
fee is the filing of the lien. So that's why the $250 always goes on top of it. And that's why when the planning and zoning does $25 a day plus $250, it's because that's how much it costs at the end to get the-
Filing of the lien and other administrative things. The $5,000 will
Staff
put you at approximately 20%
Okay,
for reference.
thank you. Got your calculator out.
Calculator out.
I think that's good, to get it back in on the tax rolls. At least it's
You need a
something.
motion?
I do.
I need I make a motion that we reduce the lien to, hesitantly, I make a motion we reduce the lien to $5,000.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Is this reduction of the lien tied to any guarantee of selling the property, or is it just across-the-board reduction of the lien?
It cleans up the lien and gets rid of it.
It does not do anything to guarantee that the person that the lien is against will actually sell the property,
No, but they have to clean up the lien to sell the property.
but there's no guarantee they will sell the property.
I don't think we can make somebody
I
guarantee they're
understand they
gonna
have
sell
a contract
property.
on it, and they've already cleaned it up to satisfy code enforcement. I'm looking at
So
Wayne.
I think is what he's asking though, is let's just say we knock this thing down to just owing $5,000, and then
The
3
sale
months from
falls
later,
through.
the sale falls through. Do they now just owe $5,000 for the lien?
Yes, they do.
Yes,
That is exactly what I'm saying.
I mean, if you want to put a caveat in there, you can put a caveat in there.
I'm
I
not
just would
sure
like
you
to
can
say,
do
if you're
that.
going to reduce the lien, there should be some type of a sale caveat or something, or the lien gets reinstated if you don't sell it.
Kirsten?
So I hear that concern, and I agree with it.
Good.
The problem.
I hear a however in there.
Yeah, there always is.
The problem is that when we go forward with this, essentially what it means is we're going to formally reduce the lien that needs to be paid by this property owner, right? And that will get rid of the lien. We'll file a document that is an extinguishment of our lien, and that is the time in which it sounds like the buyer will go through with the sale. So the problem is that we can't put in a formal extinguishment of our lien that says if and only if you sell it within a certain amount
You
of
have to have the
time.
money first.
So can we withhold the reduction of the lien until the property is sold and then
No, you
reduce
can't.
it to the new buyer?
We can't say that
You
if
can't
it
do that
sells-
because then they can't sell the property because they'll have a lien on it. So you need to clear up the lien so that they can sell the property.
So what I will say is they could sell the property with
Yeah,
the lien
they
on
could,
it.
yeah.
It's just what is the buyer going to agree to? And it could be that the buyer very well may, and many realtors would recommend that they not pursue a property that has a $25,000 lien on it if they're paying $20,000 from that, because there's no guarantee that you all will feel the same way in 2 months.
Or that they will pay it.
So in legal speak, it is legal to sell the property with a lien on it, but the reason that they're coming to us is because they want to sell the property and they can't move on with the lien.
With the amount of the lien.
So can they say, I don't know.
I think that's the best we can do.
So here's the good news, is that I know that it's been brought up a couple of times, these fines have accrued for a very long time. There's a statutory period that you have to wait. You have to log your lien, you have to record it, and then you have to wait for them to go forward. Typically, we wait for the lien to sort of get up there in number because it allows us to foreclose on the whole property without, them shelling out $5,000 to get rid of it, and then the property continues, and then we have to get a new lien, and it's a whole mess. So we wait for it to be pretty substantial for that reason. The good news about this is that, let's say this does happen, we reduce the lien, $5,000 gets paid, but then it's not sold for whatever reason. Then the foreclosure can move forward from there, even just on that $5,000 that we've reduced our lien to, because we can move forward and we can say, okay, well, our lien is now $5,000. We want our $5,000 and we're going to foreclose on this property. Then they have, either pay $5,000 or we foreclose on the property and we end up with the same result.
So it's a wonderful mechanism where you reduce $20,000 to $5,000. Then when threatened with foreclosure, you simply pay $5,000 for the lien that was $20,000 or $25,000, and you're free and clear. Is that accurate?
Most of the time, you don't get a payment on the foreclosures. You receive the property as payment instead of the payment of $5,000. So
But if you do pay it, then
Sure.
the foreclosure is stopped.
yes, for that time. Yep.
Okay.
But that's only if we refile, like if they don't pay the $5,000 and you refile the lien.
Right.
As starting at $5,000. So I hope we don't have to do all that.
Right.
Well, I call for a motion.
I started to say I have a
Or vote.
motion, and I have a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, so did you understand what we did?
Yes.
Okay. And Laura's the one you can work with.
Thank
and
you.
with the attorney
Thank you.
to get it reduced.
Thank you.
And paperwork that says that. All right, so
Ian.
we removed M, so we're going to N. All right, the only reason, let me say that the only reason I did not remove N from the agenda is because I wanted to talk about it. And my first impulse was to remove it. But we talked at a council meeting probably a week ago, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, maybe. We talked about the pension board meeting that we had before and how this was done as a resolution and it has to be an ordinance that is an amendment to the original pension plan. I don't know if y'all remember all that, or I need to start at the beginning. You remember, okay. I actually emailed the Florida League of Cities today, Laura Underhill and Jeremy Langley, and asked them to refresh my memory where we left it. Where we left it was that we present it to you as to what we were going to have to do to make it right and make it, because we passed a resolution and we did pass it, and it was December, help me.
September 6, 2022.
There you go, September of 22. That we did pass it, and they contacted us and told us that we did not do it by ordinance. It had not been reviewed by the state of Florida, and it had to have an impact statement from the Florida League of Cities pension actuary. So what we discussed at the board meeting, the pension board meeting, because from here I took it back to them, to actually order the impact statement. We talked with the attorney that we have for that pension board. I can tell you his name is Mr. Chudachek. And he talked to us and he advised us at that time, let's see, he advised us, he reiterated that the plan had to be amended and that an impact statement would have to be prepared by the actuary. The ordinance and the impact statement would then have to be sent to the Division of Retirement at the state of Florida, and the ordinance would then have to be passed by the city council as an amendment to the original plan. Well, all that sounds really good, except now I understand that we have a union proposal that includes this in it. So because it's included in that contract, we need to, in my opinion, somebody give me some help here, and we may need to take it back to Mr. Chudachek. I think it needs to be coming through the union. Their request needs to be handled before we can do it. But if y'all don't think that's the case, let me know. I'm seeing Crystal looking at me cross-eyed too.
It does have to be discussed. They have it on the table, so.
That's why I didn't take it off.
Okay.
We still need an impact statement, and we still need an
Yeah.
actuary.
Yes, I think have to have the actuary do the impact statement to consider whether or not it's even doable.
Right.
We could have been in the same situation with the police pension, and after he did the impact study, we would realize it's not doable.
Yeah.
And we would not move forward.
Right. So I guess what I'm asking is, do we go back to the pension board and tell them to do the impact study and the actuarial?
So it's my understanding that even if we asked them, and correct me, there was actually nobody here can correct me on this because nobody knows. When we did the actual impact study, it was paid by the police pension.
Yes, it will all be paid out of the plan.
Yeah, so
That is correct.
that's not going to cost any money in the sense of the city, that they'll have to pay for it out of the plan to get that done.
That's right.
But it may be something that's not palatable. You know, we get back to it, what if they say, I'm just pulling a number up here, what if they say, yeah, you can do it, but the cost is going to be 10%, that the city pension is going to go up to. It may not go up by anything. I don't know what it's going to go up to. If y'all remember the case of the police pension, it went down to 18% with what we wanted to do, but it could have dropped down to 17 had we not done what we did. So there would have been some savings there that year, but we were able to do it and still save money. So I don't know what this is going to cost us.
Me either. But what it amounts to is I need for you to give me some direction.
Do we have to follow through this to find out what the cost is going to be, or how do you find out what the cost is going to be?
The actuary does it.
I know. But
Yes.
You
do
mean
we
the
have to
cost
go
of the
through-
actuary?
Do we have to go through this to get to that bottom line?
Yes.
Yes, you do. That's the impact.
Well, I think that answers that question, is that we need to.
I think
Well-
so. I just want you to tell me to do it. That's all I'm doing.
Mr. Barber had his hand raised.
I didn't see it. Sorry.
So when this originally was presented before the board back last year, It was presented to the pension board, and then it was presented to the council.
Yep.
One of the things that was stated by staff was that they were not expecting the additional contribution of their overtime wages, their contribution. They did not expect a match. They did not expect any further or additional investment by the city. That was the caveat. So typically when we put in a pension contribution, obviously there's a percentage that the city matches. This proposal was brought forward, it was if you let us do overtime wages, we did not expect the city to increase their contribution in any way. It simply comes out of the paychecks of the people participating on the hourly rate. So, I mean, can that not be a caveat of moving that forward? Because, I mean, that was the original proposal.
I don't think that's written in it anywhere. The original resolution that we did, I don't think it says that at all.
So the action, I mean, so to do it just like the police.
If that would be the case, there wouldn't be any impact. You're exactly right.
I get that, but I want the actuary to tell me that.
Yes.
That's what's required by law. That's
Yeah.
what the state's gonna look at.
Yeah.
Is what does the actuary state? Now, there's this change, what is it? How does it affect the pension? And so that's what needs to be done. We must have that person, whoever they are. I know it costs $10,000 to do the police pension.
Yeah, well, the last one we did cost $18,000. The general employee pension plan, the last actuary we did, you're required by law to do one every second year. And the last one we had to have done cost $18,000.
And you know
But it's paid out of the plan.
Ours was cheaper, that's right, because it was actually done at the same time that the
That's right, we shared
original one
it.
was done, that's right.
We shared it.
Well, the resolution says in here to allow for employee contribution.
So it does say that.
Yes, it does say that right up there at the heading.
Yeah, I'm trying to read it. In the heading,
To allow for employee contribution, not the city, but for the employee.
I don't think we were specific enough. Can you, was it intended to be 5% of the overtime hours?
Yes,
Rate?
ma'am. And that was the intent. I'm the one that wrote it.
Yeah, see, that's not in there either. The percentage is not there either.
No.
So yeah, we've got some work to do on it, but I think we can get that done if y'all tell me to do that. And there shouldn't be a whole lot of impact if that's the case. Right, it won't cost us any money, the plan will pay for it.
Okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb, do it.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. I think we are done.
No, P.
P. Sorry, I moved my agenda around. All right, P, Resolution 2023-67, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston authorizing the submission of an application for the Florida Recreational Development Assistance Program to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection for the state of Florida, fiscal year 2024-25. Ms. Jones.
This
Oh,
is just
you're the troublemaker, huh?
I'm so sorry. I got an
No, we
email on
love it.
Friday that said, hey, if you don't get this, you can't put this in
That's
next week, and I was kind of upset. But this is just $50,000 we're going after for Cornelius Williams. Talked about this last year, and we had some bad storms, power outages, and we couldn't get it in. So I think Fred just remembered that I wanted to get it in for this year, and we have the paperwork ready. I just need you guys to get me the resolution signed and updated. And this is probably there's a couple little things that we're going to do out there, and also, it's not going to be stormwater, what's the thing? Gazebo type thing, like a picnic area or something. So.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Jones? If
I
not,
make a motion that resolution 2023-67 be approved.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we're down to the second segment of public participation. If there's anyone here or online that would like to add something or talk with us about anything at this point, this is your 5 minutes. Mr. Beasley, if you will, state your name and your city of residence.
Good evening, Ron Beasley, Williston. I guess I would like to say that I'm the newly elected sidewalk monitor for Stadium View Acres.
Oh, my.
And having said that, is there a city ordinance that pertains to street side parking on a residential street?
Not that I'm aware of. They do it all over my neighborhood. Ms.
Okay.
Jones, do you know of any ordinance that prohibits parking on a, you're just talking about parking on city right-of-way?
Yeah. Well, actually parking on our side and on the other side.
City right-of-way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You specifically talking about city ordinances or state statutes?
Sorry?
You talking about city ordinances or state statutes?
Anything. Ordinances, whatever.
So I would suggest you get with the chief of police. There are state statutes that if a car is parked on the side of the road and it impacts the travel of other vehicles in a way that's dangerous, then there could be some issues with it.
All right, so this leads to, this leads to this whole issue about, all right, so the school board did a great job in cleaning and clearing all of those beautiful trees and made a huge parking area, and it's not being utilized fully. So we still are having people park along the street side. And my concern is the sidewalk, parking on the sidewalk on our side, which is, you know, our sidewalk that we paid for. And then once the other two lots are occupied, there will be sidewalks there as well that people, for some reason, don't seem to want to walk from the great new parking lot. They want to park on the street side. So what I'm asking is very simply, if there is no ordinance, if there is no state statute, if there's nothing to say that people cannot park adjacent private property, then I would be very happy if I could have some cones that I could put out on my sidewalk to keep people from parking on it during ball games. And that's all I would ask for.
Mr. Barber.
So we would, for liability reasons, not want to utilize cones. They're not DOT approved, and there are issues if someone were to hit them or drag them under their car. What we could possibly do is we could look into putting and just posting a couple of no parking signs there, and that's permanent. So we could look into that if the council desires us to.
So we're doing no parking for his property, but everybody else they can park on?
Well, Mr. Mayor, what I would say to that is that very few of us live next to a stadium. So if the council's interested, obviously we would go through the attorney, we would go through our engineers, make sure things are legal, make sure we're not putting up a sign that we're not supposed to. If you're interested in us looking into it, we can look into it. But as far as the cones are concerned, that presents a problem, and I was just bringing that up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, when I go to a football game, I'll park on the side of the road right there. If you're going west, I park on the right side there on the city easement, and I have been parking there for years. And until that man tells me I can't do it, I will be parking in that same spot. I'm sorry.
Well, that's all well and good. You know, now there are going to be residents on that, in that area. We're number one. There will be 2 more residents added to that property area, Stadium View Acres.
And that's the football stadium right there, and they've been playing football there at that stadium for a long time.
Well, I really don't care, to be honest
I know,
with you.
and I honestly, no offense.
And it is city right-of-way.
And it is a city right-of-way.
But now you have residents there where you didn't before.
There's people parking all over my neighborhood.
It's still
on city
city
right-of-way.
right-of-way.
Could you please look into signs? That's all I'm asking. Keep them off of the side. All I want is keep them off of the sidewalk.
I mean, I wish they didn't do it in my neighborhood too. I mean, I'm sympathizing with you, empathizing with you, because they definitely, I don't like where they park either. Most of my people that are, not my people, most of the people in my neighborhood are working at the nursing home. and they're parking all over the city right away.
Okay.
And you can't see past the stop sign. Two cars can't pass at the same intersection because they are parked next to each other, and two cars can't pass and have somebody on the right of way at the same time.
Obvious.
So I understand exactly where you're coming from.
Okay, obviously, right of way to the street is one issue, but we've already had an individual park right on top of that sidewalk that I spent $5,200 on. And I would appreciate a little help from the city in keeping that sidewalk in good condition as long as possible. And if a sign would do it, otherwise I'll sit out there on top of my sidewalk and tell people not to park there.
Yeah.
Did you report that vehicle to the police?
I did not that one. However, it will happen again, I guarantee it.
Yeah,
And
you need to
I
report
will
it to the
report it
police.
to the police.
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
who owns the sidewalk?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Does the resident own the sidewalk?
it
or
was
does
deeded to the city.
Owns the sidewalk?
So
Well-
help me with that.
I thought when we went
I'm
through.
going to go to my attorney right here.
99.9% of the time, unless there's a special circumstance, the sidewalk is public right of way. So it's
That's
the
what I
city's.
thought. I thought when he was building his home, and part of the agreement was that he had to build a sidewalk, that the sidewalk became the city's
Yeah,
property.
you
after
build the
he built
sidewalk
it.
and it becomes the city's. That's
Okay,
right.
I just want to.
That's usually the way it
So the
is.
city owns it.
However, having said that, the city has made me responsible for maintenance of that sidewalk.
It's in the ordinance.
So having said that, I would appreciate some help from the city
How did
in
we do that?
keeping it in good condition.
That is an ordinance.
That is an ordinance.
Yes. I've always wondered how in the world you can make someone
is an ordinance.
put a sidewalk in, deed it to the city,
Yeah.
and then be responsible, but that is the
No,
ordinance.
I can't see that either.
It's been that
Been there
for
for a long
for
time.
years.
Yep.
So, Council President Jones, if you'll recall, when we had this discussion when he was here talking about the sidewalk, the ordinance was from, and Vice President of the council at the time pointed it out, the ordinance was from 1959.
Right.
So it hasn't been
Correct.
updated.
Right,
But
exactly.
the Vice President of the council is the one that found that. So that is an
Yeah,
accurate statement.
exactly.
Yeah, it needs to be changed.
And it was part of his
No.
plot that he had to put that sidewalk
Right,
in.
I remember that.
Yes, it was a big discussion.
Yeah.
All right, so, I know I only have 5 minutes, all right. So, who do I see and how do I go about getting this ordinance updated?
Which
To
ordinance?
reflect the fact that, yeah, I paid for it, but now the city owns it, and I don't want the responsibility for having to maintain it now that the city owns it. I think I did my part by building it.
You did.
We agree with you,
Yeah.
but the ordinance says otherwise.
How do we change the ordinance? How do we update the ordinance?
Pull it and let's look at it. Somebody help me find it and just bring it back to us.
Well,
Let's
it's
look at
easy
it.
to find.
It's easy to find.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
put in sidewalks, huh?
Even I found it.
Put in sidewalks.
So if we change the ordinance to reflect that, is he going to be grandfathered in, or is that going to be moving forward? And if you grandfather him in, are you going to have to grandfather anybody else in?
You changed it, it's changed for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
And everybody moving
That means all the sidewalks that the city forced people to put in and then told them that they had to be responsible for maintaining it would revert to the city's responsibility to maintain them.
Right, so we'll get you a cost estimate
think
for
it
an
should be that
ordinance
way.
change and a cost estimate for maintaining the sidewalks from now on.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Can we get that put on the next agenda?
Yep.
Can we wait, can you just get, I'm not gonna be here.
I'm not interested, the cost estimate's not as important to me as looking at the ordinance.
I-
I'm not talking about to fix it, I'm just talking about to look at it.
I just wanna
Councilman
look at the
Berwick,
ordinance.
I have 2 grants to write and a conference to go to, there's no way I could get that done in.
You don't have to do it, I want a copy of the ordinance.
Oh, yeah, we could do that.
That's all I asked for.
Okay, sure.
You added the cost estimate, not us. Okay. We'll do-
Thank you for bringing this up.
Yeah, I did.
brought
I
it
had
up
no
years
idea.
ago,
I had, no-
was
and I honestly
fighting
didn't
on
know.
nothing.
Okay. Is there a contact person? Would it be Laura? Or who would
From-
it be that I can just stay in touch with about?
I would go with Latricia.
That is the
She's
city
gonna,
clerk.
she's gonna
City
put
clerk.
it, she's gonna put it on the agenda.
Perfect. Thank you.
So she's your contact person.
All right, Latricia, we'll be talking.
Miss Wright.
Cool.
Not wrong, but right.
Sorry, right, she's right.
She is definitely right.
All right.
Always.
Thank you.
That is section 34-3, construction and repair of sidewalks, duty of property owner, procedure upon failure of owner to act, and that has been codified since 1958.
What's the number again, Mr. Vice President?
34-3.
Section 34-3, and I must add that the mayor shall notify them of such neglect.
Hold your breath.
Oh, boy.
I'm just quoting.
And let me just tell you, this next coming week is going to be another big game. Because it's Chiefland. They're going to be everywhere. I mean, Chiefland's only 20 miles away, 25 miles away. They're going to be everywhere. Yeah.
They'll fill up everything around there, except they won't be on my sidewalk.
Don't get hurt.
Yeah.
City sidewalk.
Well, maybe you should charge
That's
for
the
parking.
city sidewalk. It's not your sidewalk.
And that was gonna be my response. He can't go out and stop people from
No.
parking there.
You can't.
It's not his sidewalk, it's not his property. So if somebody parks there,
Please
I mean,
don't get in that fight.
only thing he can do is call us. And I mean, if they're not on the sidewalk and they're on the city right away, there's nothing we can do.
I complain every day about the power line trucks that drive across the sidewalk behind Shogun and Taco Bell. You should see that sidewalk. And it is in...
And nobody cares, but my neighbors have parties all the time, and people are parking all over the city right-of-ways.
Yeah.
If we can do something about that, too, I would appreciate
My
it.
neighborhood as well. Mr. Barber.
Yeah, just for the record, for people listening, those are not city electric trucks. Those
No.
are other providers.
They are not city electric trucks. You're exactly right. No, they are not. They belong to two other electric companies. They are not ours. And I have seen the police department stop and make them move because they park right on top of the sidewalk. And they will, when they see them getting out of the truck, they will go there and say, move this truck. All those sidewalks along that west side of that whole plaza all the way down to 2nd Avenue are a mess because they just pull straight across the sidewalk.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Anything else for public participation? Anything? I missed the joke, whatever it was. Item number 7, any other announcements?
Yes.
I said already yes.
I just want to reiterate this again, that I am thankful that the mayor, the vice president, the president, and the city manager are all sitting on a Florida League of Cities board. This is the first time that I know of that we've had 4 people from Williston, the city of Williston, to sit on the league's board at one time.
And my first meeting is September the 8th.
All of us. We all meet on September the 8th, all of our respective committees.
We're gonna all
I don't
ride
know
down
what
in an
yours
old
are.
Impala.
Yours are separate than ours.
Old Impala. We're taking my car. It'll be all right.
Oh, yeah, I think we're taking my car. Your car.
No, we're taking 2.0.
No, we're taking my car.
No.
And you're driving. All right. Anything else for the good of the cause? Ms. Jones.
I just wanted to let everybody know that we did hire a new permit tech. You may know her. She may be familiar to you. She's sitting right here. Betty Jean. Betty Joanne Bishop. And I wanted...
Joanne Bishop.
BJ.
I was going to say, I don't know that name at all. That's what
Just
Mama
trying to
said.
throw you off.
She's Betty Sue.
And thank Crystal for making it a very quick, smooth process. So we're very excited to have her. Please give her a little bit of time to get acquainted with the position, but thank you.
Cool.
Welcome.
Welcome, welcome. Anything else? If not, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We will adjourn at 8:09 p.m.